Yes, thank you. This is the agenda for today's training. I want to provide a brief overview of the topic that we will cover in this session, which would include introductions and policies, searching and creating a client profile, creating and managing household members, enrolling clients into a project, services and updates, exiting clients from a project, and HMIS program and roster reports. If you are interested in practicing the HMIS functionality we will cover in today's training, please feel free to log in your agency's Training Clarity account. We have a packed training today, and we will take a moment at the end of the training to answer any questions that you may have regarding the live training if the time allows it. Meanwhile, our HMIS team will be providing support to address questions in the chat. Please feel free to add your questions. We will send out a recap with the training materials and recording, which will be available on the OC HMIS website as well. First, we will introduce and discuss the policies associated with Part 2 training. What is Part 2? HMIS Part 2 training covers the data entry process and the different functionalities of Clarity, the software used for HMIS. HMIS policy and privacy forms are covered in the HMIS Part 1 online course, but we would also like to bring awareness in this training. In order for client records to be shared in HMIS, clients must consent to share their data with other agencies participating in HMIS. The following forms are made to be shared during intake and made accessible to clients: consent to share protected personal information, grievance form, and the client revocation of consent form. Forms to be posted at each intake location, note regarding collection of personal information, and the privacy notice. Please visit this page every time you need a form to ensure that you are always using the most up-to-date form. Our HMIS team recommends that you do not save these files to your computer because doing so means you will likely use outdated forms after the forms are updated. When you work with real client data, there are requirements that your computer must have in order to access Clarity. The purpose of HMIS security check procedure is to ensure that computers, tablets, or any other devices used to access HMIS are secure and protect client confidentiality. HMIS participating agencies must adhere to the HUD HMIS technical standards. Each computer, tablet, or other device used to access HMIS must be password protected. Login credentials cannot be displayed in public areas, meaning that your username and password should not be written on a Post-it note and stuck on your desk for anyone to see. Locked out after 5 minutes of activity or inactivity. Have virus protection software and firewall. And be stored in a secure location, such as a locked office when not in use. For additional information, please review the knowledge base article, HMIS Security Check Resources. We will review in the next few slides the steps to search clients and to create a client profile in HMIS. Before you create a new client record, you should search by any of the identifying pieces of information, such as name, social security number, and date of birth. This is to make sure that the client does not already have a record in HMIS. When you log into HMIS, you click on the search to access the search for a client page. You can search for the clients by their first name, last name, social security number, or date of birth. It is recommended that you search using the first two letters of the first and last name to see a list of potential clients and so that you can better distinguish duplicate profiles. This is also helpful because sometimes a client's name might be spelled differently. For our example, we will search up Tweety Bird, and the client's name could be Tweety Bird with an I or Tweety Bird with a Y. In cases where a client has already have a record in HMIS, you do not need to create a new one. You will want to check the client's date of birth, social security number, and the spelling of their name to make sure that they have identified the correct client. If you are able to confirm the accuracy of the information with your client, you will use the client's existing profile and enroll them into your agency project, which we will cover in the upcoming slides. If the client informs you that their demographic information in HMIS is incorrect, make sure to update the client's profile before you enroll them into your project. In this case, that you find a duplicate profile, duplicate meaning the same name, social security number, and date of birth, please have your HMIS agency admin submit a ticket to the help desk with a unique ID of each profile and to have them merged. For our training example client, Bugs Bunny, he does not have a profile in HMIS, so let's create one. After you click the Add button, you will be taken to the client profile creation page. You will fill out each field on this page and add the release of information and then save to the bottom of the page and save your client's record. The client's profile page asks you to enter the client's name, date of birth, and social security number. If the client has provided that information, you may enter it. The data elements listed on the client profile page are universal data elements, which are required to be collected by all projects participating in HMIS, regardless of funding source. It is critical to collect and enter the universal data elements correctly to reduce duplicate client records.
I'll be supporting with sharing a demo. Could you verify that you see our training clarity site?
Yes.
Thank you. As Michaela mentioned, it is very important. The first step before adding a profile is searching up to see if the client already has an existing HMS profile. If they do, then you would want to click on that profile and add program enrollments as needed. If you're unable to find a record, that is when you'll create a new profile. So for example, we mentioned searching up the first two letters of the participant's name. This is so that it gives you potential lists of clients so that you can review. And if you click search, the list will be available here and you can navigate to each profile and determine if that is your client by checking, as Michaela mentioned, the name, the social, and date of birth. For our example, we're going to create a new profile for Bugs Bunny, and we are saying for this example, they do not have a HMS client profile yet. So you'll click the Add button, and it'll take you to a Create New Client Profile screen. From here, you'll be adding in the universal data element as Michaela mentioned. I'm going to add a partial social security number, and you'll see the system will populate a warning to let me know that this does not follow the Social Security Administrative guidelines. So I can go ahead and click cancel and update the data if needed, or click OK to proceed. So in my example, the participant only gave me the last four digits, so I'll go ahead and click OK. The quality of SSN is already populated, that it's approximate or partial SSN reported. And for date of birth quality, if the client provides you the full date of birth, you can add that and update the status of quality of date of birth to full date of birth reported. For my example, the participant did not give me their date of birth, but provided me their age. So for participants that provide you the age, you can add in approximate date of birth, and the recommendation is January 1st and the year that will produce that age. And then gender and race and ethnicity, these are multi-pick lists, so the client can identify as multiple race and ethnicity, and you're able to select as many as needed. And for participants that are 18 and older, they'll have the veteran status field to respond to. And you'll notice that I am not able to save this profile unless I include the release of information, which is available here on the right-hand side. If the client provide permission for me to share their information and provide consent, I'll put yes and select a documentation. And now I can add the record. If the client does not provide consent and also does not provide me any identifying information, I can set the release to no and client refuse. You'll notice that identifying information field has already been pre-populated with client prefers not to answer, and client prefers not to answer for here as well. And we'll add in the year to still record the age and approximate date of birth. I'm handing it back over to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Are you able to see the slideshow?
Yes, I can see the slideshow.
Perfect, thank you. Creating and managing households. In this section, we will discuss creating and managing households. What is a household? A household is a single individual or a group of people who are enrolling a project together. In HMIS, there are two household configurations to manage. The global household. The global household is connected to clients' profiles, and the program household. The program household is connected to clients' enrollments. Before enrolling a client into a project, you'll need to make sure that the client's global household accurately reflects the client's current household composition. For today's training, we will review Tweety Bird Duck Client 1 and their household's HMIS profiles and enrollment records. Tweety has a daughter named Melissa, which is Client 2, and we want to add her to their household. If you are following along and have already created a client profile for Client 1, please do the same for Client 2 now. Global household is a household composition for client profiles. Now that Melissa has a client profile set up, we will be able to link Melissa to Tweety's profile. You will go to the head of household's profile. In this case, it will be Tweety's, and go to the household members section and click Manage. Then it will take you to the households management section, where you are able to search for Melissa and add her using the button next to her name. Once you click Add, a pop-up box will appear asking for the member's type, relationship to the head of household, and in this case, it would be her daughter, and the pop-up will also ask for the date that the client enters the household. Sometimes, instead of an Add button, a Join button will appear. This means that the client is already in another's household. We will go over on what to do when this situation occurs. We would like to add another member to the household, Daffy. Since we already went over how to create a new client profile and add a client to the household, please do the same for client 3. So earlier, we mentioned a join button appearing instead of an add button. This means that the client is already a member of another household. You will be able to do one of two things. The first option is have the client for which you are on leave their household and join the new household. In this case, it is asking if we want Tweety to leave his household and join Daffy. If you click this one, it will ask you the date for which Tweety left her household. Since Tweety is the head of household, the system will ask us to reassign the head of household that will take her place. In this case, another household member can be named. It will then ask you what her relationship is to the head of household and the start date for when she is now part of the new household. The second option, you can have the client, the one you looked up, leave their household and join the new one. In our case, have Daffy leave his household and join Tweety. If they are the head of household they are leaving, a new head of household needs to be assigned. If they are not the head of household for the household they are leaving, you will only need to identify the relationship to the household the new client is joining. But since this scenario was not part of the case, we can move forward with our duck's household. I will now demonstrate how to exit a client from the global household. For this example, we will exit Daffy. To do this, you can go to the Household Members section and click on the Manage button. And then we are going to search for Daffy and click the edit icon next to Daffy's name. Then fill out the fields in the Edit Household pop-up box as seen on the screen, such as the member type, head of household, and joined household date should auto-populate for you. Be sure to toggle the exited household and insert the date in which the client was exited, which in this case, we will use today's date, October 30th.
Thank you, Michaela. I'll be supporting with a demo. Could you verify that you see our training site?
Yes.
In this section, we are creating and managing household members. So from the head of household screen, you'll see household members to the right and the manage button right here where you can click to add members and remove members as needed. And this is the global household. So I want to add Melissa Duck. And when I hover over the name, I'm able to see the add button. And when I click add, a window will populate. And I will, member type is the relationship to the head of household. So we're going to set Melissa to daughter and add the date the member joined the household and click save. You'll notice now that the household members has updated and Melissa is included in the global household. If you go to the head of household profile, you'll also see Melissa added here. So these are all the members that are included in the global household. The example where Michaela discussed about removing a member, this could occur when household composition change. So you would do the same step. You would navigate to the head of household member or head of household profile, head over to head of house or household member section and click manage and hover over the member that needs to be exited. And you'll see an edit icon when you hover over their name and a window will populate and the exited household toggle, you can push that forward and add the date that they exit the households and you can click save. And now you'll notice that Daphne Duck is no longer included in this global household. Kayla, handing it back to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can see the presentation. Thank you.
We will now discuss the workflow of enrolling clients into a project in this section. Now that we've got Tweety's global household set up correctly, we want to enroll Tweety's household into a project. In this case, it would be the ESG Emergency Shelter Training Program. You will go to the Head of Households profile and click on the Programs tab. Then under the Programs Available section, you will enter or you will click on the drop-down arrow for the ESG Emergency Shelter Training Program. Once in the drop-down menu, you'll be able to see the details for the Project ESG Funded Emergency Shelter Training Program. Enroll Tweety as well as Melissa into the project. Just be sure that you toggle next to Melissa's name and then hit enroll. After you click enroll, this is the screen that you will be directed to. And you will need to complete this information for each member of the family. There are some key points here that I want to cover because these data elements affect numerous HMIS reports. Project start date. When did the client begin working with the project? And this can vary depending on the project type. There are certain parameters that need to be met. So to be sure you understand what they are so you can determine when their project start date occurred. Transitional assistance needed. This data element is used to understand how many clients need access to translation services, and if so, which languages are most often cited as needing translation. Prior living situation. This information is used to help determine if the household is chronically homeless, so make sure to gather these details carefully. Type of residence. Where was the client just before the project start? Length of stay and prior living situation. How did the client start staying in that place? Approximate date this episode of homelessness started. How long has the client been in literal homeless situation? Number of times on the streets, in emergency shelter, or safe haven in the past 3 years. How many times has the client been in literal homelessness situations in the past 3 years? Total number of months homeless on the street, in emergency shelter, safe haven in the past 3 years. How many cumulative months has the client been in literal homeless situations in the past 3 years? Next set of field is disabling condition. Does the client have a disabling condition? This is used to determine a client's chronic homelessness status. It is important that if the client does have a disabling condition, that you select yes. and then yes for the type of disability that they have and whether it is a long-term condition. The disabling conditions we have listed are physical, developmental, HIV and AIDS, chronic health conditions, mental health, and substance use disorder. If you select yes for physical, chronic health, or mental health, it will ask you to specify whether it is long-term or not. The next one is income. You can select no or yes. If you select yes for any of these fields, you would need to identify where the income is coming from. If the minor child has an income and it is used for household expenses, you will add the amount to the head of household's record. This is because minors cannot have an income record made for themselves. After monthly income and source, it's non-cash benefits. If you select yes, you would need to identify which non-cash benefit the client receives. Next is the client's health insurance information. If you select yes for health insurance, the list of health insurance sources will appear. Click the switch next to any health insurance source that the client receives. There are also a list of OC custom questions that asks, what city were you in immediately prior to entry? What state and country were you born in? And employment status. If you want to enroll an additional client into a project where the household members are already enrolled, you would need to enroll the client from the programs page of any of the household members that were originally enrolled. You would navigate to the program enrollment and select Add next to the program group members. You would push the toggle forward and click Enroll. And you would complete the enrollment for additional household members. This step is sometimes missed, which results in a This step is sometimes missed, which results in an additional member having an individual enrollment versus a group enrollment. If this occurs, please inform your HMIS agency admin to submit a ticket to the HMIS help desk to support with merging the individual enrollment with the group enrollment. And then we now have a demo for enrolling clients into a project.
So we're on our practice client, Tweety Bird Duck. We're going to navigate to programs. I am under OC Training Agency, so I will be able to see all the projects that's set up for this agency that are currently active. So when we want to enroll a participant, we need to identify the appropriate project they need to be enrolled in, and you can click to expand the project to then add members, as you'll also have the option to include members as needed for enrollment. So this is important to make sure that you create group enrollments versus accidentally including moving forward with individual enrollments. And when you click enroll, you'll be taken to the enrollment screen. To save time in our demo, we did already created a practice record. So when you click the enroll button, you'll be taken to the screen, the enrollment screen, and you'll have the fields as Michaela mentioned, project start, and all the other data elements included on the enrollment screen. And when you're completed for the head of household and you click save, it will navigate you to the next members enrollment screen, and you can add their information as needed. Michaela also mentioned if there's a case where a member joins the household later on, you can also add them from here. So you'll navigate to the Programs tab, enter the program enrollment and you'll see group members here. We already added Melissa Duck, but we want to also include Daphne Duck. So we can click add here and you'll see a new window pop up and we'll push the toggle forward and click enroll. And from there, you'll be navigated to an enrollment screen so that we can fill that information out for this household member. The project start would be the day that they participate in that project. So it could be that this member joins the household at a later time. Thank you, Michaela. Passing it back to you.
Mm. We will now discuss adding services, notes, and assessments in this next section. Next, we will add services in the project that Tweety is enrolled in. Services can be required by different funding sources and program requirements. So to make sure to confirm with your agency administrator when and how services should be applied in each of your projects. We want to make sure to be on the Tweety's profile. And then to navigate to the Programs tab and select the edit icon next to the projects that we would like to add services to. In this example, it would be the ESG funded emergency shelter program. From there, you will click on the Provide Services tab and select a service item from the list of services. For this training, we will add a bus pass under the transportation services. From there, you will be directed to this screen where you will add the start and end date of the service. You will be able to add in group members if necessary. Make sure to include a note for the service you are providing, and once complete, click Submit. Next, we will create service attendance for Tweety. Sometimes you have services that are offered to your clients every day, like bed nights, food, or transportation. It would take too long for you to look up every client that has received services and enter the service in the usual way we have shown. These services that are provided on a daily basis or multiple times per day can be set up to be able to be tracked by clients' attendance. Click on the Launchpad on the upper right-hand corner and select Attendance. Select the service that you would like to create attendance for. For this training, we will use the food meal service. This training, we will be using the bed night service and select the date in which you would like to add the service for. You can add a client by searching for the client on the right-hand side of the page. If the client has already been in attendance recently, their name would show under the clients from the last 4 months section. Since Tweety Bird Duck is new, we will search up her name. Once you hit the search, her name will appear with the Add button on the right. Click the Add button to create an attendance for Tweety. Once you click Add, Tweety's name should appear under the In Attendance section. You will be able to do this as many times as you like. The final result should look a little something like this. We will now provide a demonstration on services.
So when we want to add services, we can navigate to the Program tab and click the Edit button for the program we want to add services to. And you can go under Provide Services and see the list of services available for this program. For example, we're going to be adding in transportation and we're adding the note to the head of household. We do have the option to include the other members as needed, and we can put the start and end date as well. And there's a notes section to add in notes and then click submit. And as mentioned, we did prepare our demo to save some time. You can also, once you click submit, you'll see the record listed under history. So this is the bed pass service that was created. And if you hover over the note icon, you'll see the note that was provided for this service. And for attendance services, as Michaela mentioned, there are some services that are attendance-based. For example, emergency shelter that are night by night. We need to enter a bed night for each night, and there are services such as meals that is offered by the program that could be tracked daily. It could be offered 3 times a day. And we want to track it this way. So there is a bed night service. For this demo, I'm going to go ahead and do the food meal service. Something that we need to pay attention to is the date that we're going to enter in the meal. For example, if I needed to correct something, I can always go back and add our example client to yesterday's date. But for today, I'll put it for today's date. So I'm going to search up Tweety. Tweety Bird. This client doesn't have a service yet, so I'm going to go ahead and click add right here. And you'll notice now the client is listed in attendance. This means this service is now recorded and attached to this client's profile. And if we go under history, we'll see that that food service is recorded and available under the history. And thank you, Michaela. Passing it back.
Following the same exact format, you can add in housing notes. You want to navigate to the program enrollment and select Provide Services. Select Housing Notes, and then enter the date and input tracking data as needed. Enter in notes in the text box and click Submit to record the housing notes updates. Housing notes should be used for information related to housing the client. These notes will be shared with COC in order to streamline the housing process for the client and to coordinate care among multiple other agencies. We will now add client notes on a project level. When made public, it's available for all agencies in HMIS to see. When private, only users at your agency will be able to view it. For our example, you will start on your client's profile screen. Click on the Programs tab, select Edit button next to the ESG Funded Emergency Shelter Training Program, and then click Notes tab within the program enrollment and select Add Notes. Enter in the title of the note when the note was created, enable time tracking as needed, and add a description of the note.
So we'll go over providing housing notes. As mentioned, it's the same process as adding a service. So you go to Provide Services tab, and you'll see the option to add a housing note. And we will enter the date that the note was entered in and track the time if needed and add the notes here and click Submit. Once we click Submit, it would be available under the History tab. We'll see that there's a record here for housing notes. And if we hover over the note icon, we can preview the note that was entered. And for case notes, we can go to the Notes tab here. and click Add Note, and we'll see a new screen populate. And we can add a title, select the category, update the date if needed, and add in tracking time if needed, and add in the notes here. And there is a private toggle. If we want to keep the note private, we can push it forward. Um, if it's not needed to be set to private, we can leave that alone and click Add Record. All case notes would be available under the Notes tab. So we do have a note already created here. And as mentioned, if you hover over the note icon, you can preview that note. Okay, thank you, Michaela. Handing it back.
Elizabeth, can you see the presenting screen?
Yes.
Okay. We will now set a public alert. There can be times when it is necessary to notify your agency or several agencies of a client's situation or need. For example, you can use a public alert, and this will make it so a notification will appear on the client's profile page, visible to anyone looking at that record. To do so, you will click on the Notes tab on the profile screen. Right under the Client Notes section, you will see a section for public alerts and click Add Alert. You will then enter in the title, a date the alert will expire, a description explaining the reason for the alert. Selecting the private checkbox will make the alert only visible to staff members in your agency. If you do not select that, then it will be visible to anyone looking at the client's record, and then hit Save. We also have a demonstration for the public alert.
Thank you, Michaela. Public alert would be when we put a public alert, there's going to be a banner that is going to be on the client's profile so that any user that access the client profile, they'll be notified about this alert. Again, public alert could be set to just your agency or to all. So the way to add this public alert is actually going not in the program, but from the client profile screen, the Notes tab, and then under public alert, adding that alert. And you can add the title for that alert and the date that the alert will expire. For example, if we want to keep the alert for a week, we're going to put that until next Wednesday so that this alert is active and available on the profile screen for that week. So for our example, we did already created a public alert. So if we go to the profile screen, we can click the view notes and it'll take us directly there to see what was the alert. So for our example, we wanted to notify that the client was missing their ID card because they accidentally left it at the office. This is to alert any agency that works with this client. If the client is looking for this information, their ID card, they can go back to the OC training agency to retrieve their ID card. You're handing it back.
When clients are participating in a project, we understand that certain things might change, such as income or a client's disability status. You will be able to add status assessment to the client's record to capture these changes. This must be dated as the day the client's information changes, and there is no limit to the amount of status assessments you can add. To do a complete status assessment, you would go to the client's profile and click Edit for the project you wish to add assessments to, and then Assessments. Then click Start next to the status assessment.
So I'm going to show you how to get to the assessment. So you can go through, you will click edit to the program you want to add the status assessment to and go under assessment tab. You'll see the assessments that's available for us to add. So when you see status update assessment, we can click start. Status update assessment can be entered anytime there's a change to the client data. Annual assessment would only be added at their 1 year project anniversary date. So for our example, we did already enter a status update assessment. The update that we had was that the participant SSDI benefits increased to 500 from their 400 at intake. So we wanted to record that increase. The screen itself will populate data from the enrollment screen, so you would just need to update the field that has changed. Okay, Michaela, back to you.
Thank you. Annual assessments. You would add an annual assessment for an individual when they have been active in your project for 1 year. You will be able to add the annual assessment 30 days before or after their 1 year anniversary of their project start date. If the client started the project on October 1st, 2023, you can add the assessment as early as September 1st, 2024, but no later than October 31st, 2024. You would access the annual assessment the same way you would get the status assessment. When you are dealing with a family, also known as a group enrollment, the annual assessment is based on the head of household anniversary date. For example, if Tweety Bird Duck has a project start date of October 1st, 2023, and is currently active in the project, on her 1 year anniversary of their project start date, an annual assessment must be entered, which would be by October 31st, 2024. Let's pretend that Daffy Duck entered the project on November 1st, 2023, a month after Tweety, the head of household. Daffy would still need an annual assessment completed by October 31st, 2024, because that is when the head of household would be getting theirs. We have a demonstration for the annual assessment.
Thank you, Michaela. We would navigate as shared earlier, and when it's time to complete the annual assessment, you can click start. You'll also have the option to push the toggle forward for all the household members and click an annual assessment. So when you click an annual assessment, you will be completing the annual assessment for the head of household and then the additional members. Heading it back.
Thank you. And Elizabeth, are you able to see the presenting screen? Okay. In this section, we will review the workflow of exiting a client from a project. When the client is no longer in need of your project services, you will need to exit them from the project. You will need to edit the enrollment for the head of household in the project they are exiting. You will need to go to the Programs tab and then click Edit on the project you wish to exit the client. In this case, it would be the ESG Funded Emergency Shelter Training Program. You will select the Edit button on the right side like it is shown here. After you select the exit icon on the enrollment, you will have the chance to select the names of the people in the household that you would also like to exit, and then select End Program. You will now see the exit screen. Project exit date is the project exit date determining the end of a client's period of participation with a project. Record Record the month, day, and year of the last day of occupancy or service. Destination. Select the destination that most closely matches where the client will be staying after exiting the project. Review the disabling condition, income, non-cash benefits, and health insurance, and add updates as needed. One of the required questions is the destination on where the client is going. In this case, I am going to set Tweety's destination as renting with an ongoing non-housing opportunity subsidy. We'll now have a demonstration on exiting a client from a project.
The program enrollment, you'll have the option to exit the client, and by doing so, you can click the exit button. As mentioned, you do see a pop-up window, and you can also include all household member if they are all exiting the project at the same time. It's important to exit members, household members together if they are exiting at the same time, so we don't leave any members' program enrollment just hanging there active. So when you click end, we're going to first go to head of household screen, and we're selecting rental by client. And you'll notice that the data does populate again. We review to ensure if it is accurate. If it's accurate, we leave it as is. If there's any changes, we want to make those updates in case benefits increase or decrease. We want to make that update here. And you can scroll down and click save. When you click save, you're going to be taken to the next members screen, exit screen, and you'll do the same, exiting all the members out of this project. Thank you, Michaela. Handing it back over.
In this last section, we will review the report library and navigate to the program roster report. To access the HMIS reports, you would go to the Launchpad and click on Reports to access the list of HMIS reports. It will then take you to this page, and you can see that it is divided up into 3 sections: Report Library, Explore, and Data Analysis. Report Library. This contains canned reports. These are reports that are made, so you will only need to adjust a few filters, such as date range, program name, and etc. Explore. You will have a chance to play with Looker and create custom reports. Data Analysis. This is a library of reports that will contain any custom reports that we have created specifically for your agency. You can expand these sections to see the reports that are here. If you select the More Information section, you will see a summary of the purpose of the report. Before this training, we will focus on using the canned reports under the program-based reports. This program-based report lists programs that has information for clients with the selected status in the selected program. We are going to be using the program roster report today. Click Run, or if you would like to schedule a report on a specific day, you can by selecting the scheduling report icon and selecting which dates you would like this report to be ran on. Choose your program. In our example, we will select ESG Funded Emergency Shelter Training Program. The status options are active within report date range, meaning that the client's project stay is active at least 1 day within the report date range. You would use this option to capture all of the clients active at any time within that date range. Enrolled within report date range, meaning the client's enrollment date is within the selected report date range. And exited within the report date range, meaning the client's exit date is within the selected report date range. Also, a client will be listed more than once if they have enrolled in a program more than once in the report date range, or if they have enrolled in more than one program when multiple programs are selected. For this training, we will use active within report date range, and I will do September 30th, 2024 to October 30th, 2024. since that's when our client was enrolled in our project. The output gives us three options, which will include web page, PDF, Excel. A web page is a functional format that allows you to click on errors found in the report and be taken to the client's record containing the error. PDF. The PDF is a good option for official reports, grants, and etc. Excel file. If you download the Excel file, you can use Excel to manipulate and organize the data. For this training, we will select web page and then select submit. The report will be available in the report queue next to the Launchpad. And it will look a little something like this. We now have a demonstration for our program roster reports. Elizabeth, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Thank you, Michaela. So from our screen, we're going to click the Launchpad, click Reports to then be able to access our CAN reports. The CAN reports are located under the report library. And for our training, we're going to run the program-based report, program roster. And we're going to select the project we want to run for, the status, and the date. So I'm going to select the date the client was active for, and I'm going to click Web. And then click Submit. The report will then be available in the report queue, which is right next to the Launchpad. And I've already prepared this report, so I can click Open, and it's going to navigate to the roster, and it's going to let me know the filters I've used, the date range, and also the columns of the data that's available in the roster, as well as the program name to verify that I ran the correct project and the correct reporting period. Thank you, Michaela. Handing it back to you. We just want to thank everyone for joining our training today. All of the training materials will be available on our website. We're also going to be sending a recap of the training. We did add a survey. If you have the time, please feel free to provide your feedback. We'll also include the survey in the newsletter recap. But thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day.